I think for me, the main reason I became most attracted to index funds, and you sort of hinted at this just before when you mentioned the basket of stocks of airlines that if you put them together would have underperformed the market. It actually turns out that if you put most stocks in a basket, most stocks will actually tend to underperform the market over time. So that might sound a bit strange, but how it works is it's almost like the 80-20 rule in play, like the Pareto principle as it's known. So essentially, a lot of the market's gains over time are driven by a relatively small percentage of stocks in the stock market. So I can't remember the exact figures, but it was sort of like an 80-20 rule where 20% of the companies end up being responsible for 80% or more of the long-term performance of the stock market. Because what tends to happen is a whole lot of stocks end up having terrible performance over the long run, and then a whole lot of stocks end up having like either very subpar returns or like zero type returns or simply low returns, and then you have a small group of massive long-term winners. So these would be like the Amazons of the world or the Teslas of the world and things like that, or the Commonwealth Banks of the world. So that was the one thing that really swayed me, because what tends to happen is if you miss a couple of those long-term winners, it's essentially inevitable that you're going to underperform the market, because the returns from those companies end up being so outsized that it's just so hard to keep up if you don't own them. And so that's the main reason why most professionals tend to underperform the market, because by definition, they're not owning everything, so they have to pick and choose, which is fine as a strategy, but it inevitably means you are going to end up missing some of the winners. So it's very, very difficult to know in advance which ones are going to be the long-term massive winners. And so that tends to be why index funds are a pretty decent long-term choice. And that's the main reason that convinced me finally to move towards index funds from what I was doing before.
You know, speaking of investing, Dave, there's a particular word you might know called cryptocurrency, which has a hot topic around whether that's called, you know, investing or speculating or gambling or anything in between. And I guess we'd kind of talked about this together in terms of where it sits in our own portfolio. Have you ever owned crypto?
No. Have you?
I have. I have.
Does that mean you still do or you don't anymore?
No, I owned crypto before I ever owned an ETF.
Are you the guy? You're not the guy who bought a pizza with 10 Bitcoin, are you? Like 7 years ago, and you'd now be a billionaire. But
no,
that's not you.
The quick story is like when I was 24, I was quite like I didn't have much money at all, and I had maybe like $10,000 in the bank, maybe kind of thing, and I was renting, still kind of young, post university, trying to make my way in like entrepreneurship, and I was living with like a housemate, and he was just like, you should buy this crypto thing. I'd heard about it, buy some Bitcoin, and I was like, no, go away. And then he was like, no, really, you should do it. And then I remembered, because I just bought a motorcycle, and I remembered that the thing that actually swayed me with a motorcycle was like, if I don't like it, I can sell it. You're not buying like pasta and eating it. I was like, well, yeah, I'll get the Bitcoin, and if I don't want it after a week, I'll just get rid of it and maybe lose some money. So he bought me, I think it was like 2 Bitcoin for like, I think it was $1,000 at the time. So I gave him $1,000 and he gave me 2 Bitcoin. For context now, 1 Bitcoin is worth, it's worth so much. Oh my God. It's worth $100,000 right now. Anyway, point is that it was $500 a Bitcoin, I'm pretty sure, when I bought it. And now it's like $100,000. And I held on to that for like 9 months. And this is way before I owned investments and stuff, right? And what happened was that I had that little apps where you track it. And I tell you, Dave, owning crypto is a horrifying experience, because it's like the market is open 24 hours and it moves in aggressive ways you wouldn't even imagine. You like wake up in the morning and your money's gone from 1,000 to like 2,200, and then it's back down to, it's so all over the place. And then at some point, all your friends are talking about trading it. So you think, oh my God, it's doubled today. I'll sell a little bit. And then you sell some, and then it goes down by 20%. So you buy some more, and then you realize that, I'm a day trader now. And it's so easy on the apps. And this was before I think the ATO had really kind of figured out what to do with it. So no one was really that stressed about the tax or anything. And it ended up, I think, peaking at like $34,000. That $1,000 I bought turned into $34,000 by the end of the year. And even by that point, I thought it was still going to keep going up. And then it started crashing and going down. And then a bunch of people I knew got stressed and, depressed and stuff. And I think it got down to like 15 grand. And after so long, I just said, this is not worth the emotional energy. And I don't really believe at this point in, what it is as an idea. for myself. You know, maybe I'm uneducated on the topic, but I just said, why do I own this thing that I think is purely a speculative asset? So at one point, it was more than half of my wealth just by virtue of not having much other wealth. But then I just got rid of it and I said, I'm not touching it again. It's not for me. So I've stayed away from it since like early 2018.
Do you say that because of the volatility, or are there other reasons you say that?
Look, it's hard. It's hard being on a podcast recorded and broadcast, having an opinion about the topic, right? Because there's a bunch of people right now who are like, oh, thank God he also thinks it's stupid. And then there's a bunch of people being like, what an uneducated swine who's not with the future, you know?
Welcome to the world. You're going to upset people no matter what.
Yeah, look, yeah, that's it.